What's up, everybody? Joe White here, and today I want to talk a little bit about why we are seeing the TKO pay cut controversy. WWE wrestlers being asked from TKO to restructure their deals and take pay cuts. Um, First off, it sucks when anybody loses their job. It really does. However, there are times where business need dictates that somebody has to lose their job or somebody has to take a pay cut. I've been asked in the trucking industry many a times, "Hey, you're going to go," not even asked, been told, "You're going to go from making 65 cents a mile to making 61 cents a mile. Don't like it, leave." Okay? And that's the nature of business. In the trucking industry, freight determines how much you get paid, and during COVID though, I actually got a pay raise. So because the market was, you guys went out there and bought up all the damn toilet paper and paper towels and food out of the grocery stores, and I just so happened to be running reefer units at the time. So the majority of my time during COVID, I dare to say that I actually missed that time as far as the trucking industry goes, because there was nobody on the road except for essential personnel and trucks. You could go around Atlanta in 30 minutes. Now it takes you 2 hours. So, in a way, I missed that time of the business so much. The money in in the trucking industry was bonkers. There was another business, despite not having fans there, that was paying out the yin yang, and that was the wrestling business. Um, we have to fast or rewind back to 2020. Hell, even 2019, even dare say 2017, 2018, when I got back into the trucking business. I'll go back to 2017. Okay. Um, the indies were booming. Everybody was sick and tired of Vince McMahon's BS at this point. Um, the indies were booming here in the United States. Japan was booming. England was booming as far as in the indies come along. Um, it's hard for me to describe how crazy, because there's people now that don't remember that time or refuse to acknowledge that time where Japan was king. TNA and ROH were kind of floating along. This is pre-COVID. They were kind of floating along, and you had Pop TV for TNA and all this. But anyway, people had had enough of WWE. Okay, and they just stopped watching. They stopped going to the shows. SmackDown was doing good if they drew 5,000 people in a big old arena. Okay. Um, and then, I was doing stuff with CWF Mid Atlantic at the time, not working directly for the promotion, but I was doing in the middle of doing the after show. And then CWF crumbles, pretty much crumbles around 2018, the first part of 2018. And I stopped going. I was not there for the last year of CWF Mid Atlantic's time. But the indies were still going. You had the Young Bucks doing their thing, and the Bullet Club and all this stuff. And then Dave Meltzer says you can't draw 10,000 people in an arena to Cody Rhodes on Twitter. So Cody gets together with Ring of Honor, because at this time Cody was in New Japan and he was also in Ring of Honor. And so Cody gets together with the Young Bucks and Ring of Honor and says, let's put on a show. We'll call it All In. We'll do it in Chicago. Okay. And I guarantee you we're going to sell out this building. Now, I can't remember if they sold it out, which it was the Sears Center. Now it's the Now Arena, but they drew more than 10,000 people. And it was the first time since WCW, since probably 2000, that a promotion other than WWE drew a big house like that. That gave Tony Khan the idea. Now, if you listen to Meltzer, Meltzer says that Tony Khan had that idea long before All In. But that gave that I think pushed Tony Khan over the edge to create AEW. Fast forward to January 1st, 2019, AEW gets announced with Tony Khan being the head honcho, Cody Rhodes being an EVP, the Young Bucks being an EVP, and eventually Kenny Omega would come into the fold, and I believe he was an EVP. Then WWE goes into panic mode because now that we have competition, the pay rates go up. You have a billionaire. I mean, I read online today that AEW is valued at $2 billion. So you have a millionaire, dare say billionaire, in Tony Khan, who's a money mark with unimaginable wealth, infinite wealth, and he's starting his own wrestling promotion. You have Vince McMahon, who's very well established, has more money than God. I won't say infinite amount of wealth, but he's pretty well, he's comfortable. And now all of a sudden they're having to vie for talent. And the pay rates went through the roof. You're talking about Vince McMahon signing everybody up off the indies that he could. Tony Khan signing everybody from New Japan and the indies that he could. New Japan collapses pretty much overnight because the Bucks are gone. Marty Scurll is gone. Hangman Adam Page is gone. Kenny Omega gone. The Carl Anderson and the Good Brothers, they're gone. AJ is now gone from them, which AJ had left a couple years prior to this. Finn Balor had left a couple years. They got gutted as far as their Gaijin talent went. And the only people they had there were pretty much Will Ospreay, uh, Sabre, and a couple of other Gaijin, but pretty much all they had was the Japanese talent. Tanahashi, Okada, all those guys. Evil was there. The Los Ingobernables de Japón was there. You had those hardcore Japanese guys, but that wasn't enough to sustain it. Sorry, easy for me to say. So they pretty much collapse. WWE starts around this time, around 2018-19. They start WWE UK over there with the UK Performance Center, and they start that up to kill ITV, and virtually overnight, all of the UK indies gone. There's some of them are still there, but their popularity killed. Yay. Sorry. Nothing made me happier than to see that, because never mind. I won't go into why I do not like the UK wrestling scene. It's not the wrestlers, it's the fans. But anyway, if you've been a fan of this channel for a while, you know my thoughts on European wrestling crowds. Whatever. So everything collapses to where now all you have is AEW signing talent left and right off the indies in Japan and Mexico and everywhere else. WWE's trying to do the same thing. WWE also launches, in the next few years, they would launch that NIL program. And so now, it's like you have these two guys, and then AEW buys Ring of Honor during the COVID era, or right after the COVID era ends. TNA's floundering out there, which they've done better, and they've since signed a partnership with WWE. So you have these two giants that are sitting there buying up all this talent, and the prices for everything get so inflated that now, if you fast forward to today, AEW is nowhere near as popular as it was. WWE has had this rise in popularity. It's sank a little bit. AEW's has rose a little bit, nowhere near as what it once was. and I don't think they'll ever get that high again. WWE's cooled off a little bit. So now that that bubble, their bubble that they created has burst and the market has leveled out, and WWE does not see AEW as much as a competition as they once did. I don't think they ever did, but anyway. You guys get what I'm saying here? AEW's gone about as high as it could go and now it's sank. And now it's about as high as it can go again. Okay? WWE's gone high. They've kind of leveled out, maybe dropped down a little bit. So now that the popularity's there, they bought up all this talent, they're realizing, oh crap, we can't sustain this, offering these guys $1 million contracts. Not that they're, not that everybody's getting $1 million, but you know what I mean here. So what happens? When business starts failing off, you have to cut costs. There was people forget WWE cut costs so bad in the late 2010s that there was no pyros on shows for like 3 years. There was zero pyro. So I'm not saying WWE has gone that cutthroat with it, but it is a business. And your job is to make as much money as you possibly can while spending as little as you possibly can. It's called overhead. You don't want that, if I'm running a hamburger stand, I'm going to make that hamburger stand as small as possible. Going to make it drive-through only. I'm going to have me and maybe 2 other cooks in the kitchen helping me out. And I'm going to shrink my overhead. I've always said this, WWE does not need 40 guys down in NXT at once. They don't. AEW's roster is beyond bloated. But Tony Khan won't cut anybody, won't fire anybody, and won't ask anybody to take pay cuts. Why? Because he wants to be the cool kid at the lunch table. He doesn't want to be seen as a bad guy. Triple H and TKO, they don't care about being seen as bad guys. They never have. Vince McMahon never did. Hell, if this was Vince McMahon still running it, they would have been half that roster would be gone a long time ago, and you wouldn't have guys like Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, Big Cass, coming back. But I think you guys could get what I'm putting down here. The bubble has burst. We're not in the COVID era. They don't see AEW as a competition anymore. So they're asking guys to take pay cuts. And they're saying, hey, you either take a pay cut or we release you. Or we sit you out for the next 3 months, only pay you your downside and whatever merchandise cut you have. And, you know, that's it. Bye bye. It's also a big reason why house shows have been eliminated. And yes, they are running some house shows here and there, some live events here and there, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. So I know what people are going to say. Well, they got more money for God today, so they should be able to pay people. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but when you have to answer to shareholders, like WWE does, when you have to answer to Wall Street only cares about how low is your overhead and can you have better earnings than last year? Can your revenue be higher but with your overhead being lower? That's all they care about, guys. Like it or not, that's what this is. If McDonald's sat there tomorrow and told their franchisees, hey, you have to start paying us a bigger franchise fee, what do you think those store owners are going to do? They're going to cut costs. And it starts right with having as little people as possible. Think of how many people did lose their jobs during COVID, and we still never recovered from that. Why? Because companies realized, hey, we can run on a shoestring during COVID. Maybe now we can do it even there's 3 times as many people coming through the door for customers. And they're starting to learn their lessons of no, you can't run on a shoestring like that and not upset your customer base. But there's a lot of people that lost their jobs during COVID that never got them back. We're not bitching about that. We're not complaining about that. We're not calling McDonald's evil monsters. I'm just saying, guys, that's the reason why the pay cuts are happening. It's all because of COVID. And I said it back then, and I'm saying it now. I said it's going to take us 5 years from COVID for everything to level out. Here we are 6 years afterwards. And it's all coming back. The chickens are coming back home to roost. Guys are being asked to take pay cuts because they don't see AEW as competition, so they don't see the need to keep paying them these outrageous amounts. Some guys are taking the pay cuts. Sami Zayn is rumored to be one of them. While people like Sheamus, as we just found out, didn't take the pay cut. Guys like the New Day did not take the pay cut. They're going to seek greener pastures elsewhere. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. And we'll see you down the road.
It has been said that Seinfeld is entertainment. Truer words have been spoken. Anything can happen here in the world of professional, but now more than ever, even though we call ourselves sports operas, this is a conscious effort to open the creative envelope, so to speak, in order to entertain you in a more temporary manner. The WWF extends far beyond the strict confines of soap. Surely the era of the soap is definitely passé. Yay. Therefore, we've embarked upon a far more innovative and contemporary soup campaign that is far more invigorating and extemporaneous than ever before. Other WWF programs on USA, such as Jerry Springer and King of the Hill, where there's a 40% increase in the younger audience, obviously, however, need no such discretion. Surely the era of the superhero who urge you to say your vitamins and take your prayers is definitely great. We are responsible television producers who work hard to bring you this outrageous, wacky, wonderful world known as the WWF. Through some 50 years, the World Wide Web has been an entertainment mainstay here in North America and all over the world. One of the reasons for that longevity, we consult your intelligence. We in the WWF think that you, the audience, are quite frankly simplistic. I'm happy to say that this new, vibrant, creative direction has resulted in a huge shift, for which we thank USA Network and TSN for allowing us to have the freedom to fart, but most especially, we would like to thank you for watching. Raw and the Warzone are definitely the cure for the common show. Oh, yeah.